Hello and welcome to Spartan Life Radio. I'm your host, Cheryl Wilkerson. We air every Sunday, but during the week I get to talk to the most interesting people, and that's exactly what we are doing today. So tell everybody to join us Sunday at noon. But on the phone today, I was thinking about this earlier. I have a person that's probably one of the most famous Spartans that we know of that ever set foot on this campus right now. We say hello to Mr. Robert Bobby Dandrige. How are you today?
I am doing well, Cheryl, and thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you for being a guest on Spartan Life Radio. So I have to ask you, how have you been? Been to any Hall of Fames lately?
Yes, I have, but everything's been going great. Just trying to stay healthy and be able to, relish this Hall of Fame status now. And so everything is just wonderful, Cheryl.
So when you were growing up, even before the role of basketball here at Norfolk State University, what did sports play into your life? Was it an important part of your life, or it was just something to do, or how did sports factor in when you were growing up in Richmond?
Well, it started off, which has never ended, as a passion. I was introduced to it in the fourth grade, and after a couple of tries, the ball finally went through the basket.
Look at you.
And I was hooked ever since on that challenge of putting that ball in the basket. But surely, basketball kept me out of trouble. Mm-hmm. It helped me set some goals. It allowed me to be teachable, and really basketball had a big part of me being a good student because, back in the day, you had to have a certain average to be able to play middle school and high school and even college basketball. So I give basketball credit and the people that mentored me and coached me all the credit because, basketball just stabilized my life, and mainly it just gave me some goals. And, back during that time, you didn't think about it could be a career.
Okay.
I just played it because it was a passion. And in the beginning, I found out that I could go to college if I was a good enough player. And that would have made me one of the first in my family to go to college. So that was a big goal.
So your family supported this getting the ball in the basket obsession that you developed?
Not everybody. My mother did, but my father didn't.
What did Dad say?
Dad was concerned about me getting a job or going to the military.
Ooh.
After I finished high school. But my mother had played some high school basketball, and, she supported me 100%, and I had maybe one or two other relatives that supported me 100%.
I did not know that your mother played basketball. How cool is that? What position did you play?
I don't know, because remember at that time the women had 6 players, and 3 played offense and 3 played defense. And I know I'm dating myself, but initially all I knew was I saw her on her high school basketball team, and she was a big supporter of it. She had to battle with my father sometime on letting me go to play basketball or getting a summer job, but the females tend to win out in the end.
Thank goodness for that. That's right. So what coach recruited you to come to Norfolk State University?
It was Coach Ernie Fears.
Oh, yes.
Along with Coach Price. And Coach Price was a track coach, but during that time, because of the budget, coaches went out together to recruit. The basketball coach didn't just go by himself. It may be the basketball coach, the football coach, and the track coach because of the budget. And they recruited basically on cities, so they would pick a city like maybe Suffolk, and all three coaches would go together recruiting for their own sport. And that was the way it was when I was recruited to come to Norfolk State to play basketball. It was
I did not know that.
It was Coach Spears, the basketball coach, and Coach Price, the track coach, that came. And not only were they recruiting basketball players, but they were recruiting track guys also. And I can remember a story about Coach Price told me once I went to the NBA. He said, Coach Fears, the basketball coach, didn't really want you. He said, you were the backup in case we couldn't recruit this other kid in Richmond Bonaparte.
Oh, my gosh!
And so I probably debated or argued with Coach Price for about 10 years on that topic. And then when Coach Price transitioned and I saw him, at the funeral home, I looked at Coach Price and I said, you know what? Coach Price probably was not telling a fib, but...
That is too funny.
Yeah.
And Coach Price recruiting for track with no track. And that whole story blows my mind right there. I can't even imagine the recruiting calls,
I mean, well, a lot of times back during that time, it was referrals.
Yes.
Guys, former Norfolk State athletes were the best recruiters because they would see, maybe if a guy was from Detroit, he'd see some kids in Detroit call back to Norfolk State to Coach Archie and let him know that, hey, we got a couple of good football players out here. Do you want me to talk to them? And during that time, a lot of kids that were recruited didn't even see the campus before they came to Norfolk State, but saw it as an opportunity to better their lives. And the big thing was that, we were willing to explore or to go to any lengths to improve our plights in life or to achieve our goals in life. And surely schools like Norfolk State, Virginia Union, Virginia State, A&T, Central, took chances on young African Americans, and they were based on a good referral system, and I think that's what helped historically black schools grow that network. Not the Underground Railroad as such, but it was a railroad, in fact, of recruiting.
If you are just joining us, we are talking to 2021 Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Famer Bobby Dandridge. We've got him on the line. So let me ask you this. What was it like to be drafted when you were drafted? Because today, it's all this pomp and circumstance and who's wearing what and all of that. But what was it like when you were drafted?
It was a time. It was an exciting time. It was because, historically black schools or Division II schools, I would say, were not heavily recruited. Athletes at these schools were not heavily recruited. And you really had to have some standout national statistics to be seen. The thing that, when I was drafted, fourth round draft choice in Milwaukee being a second year team. And I'm playing the forward position, but they had drafted another guy out of Rutgers University ahead of me. So when I got drafted, the projection was, well, he may make the team, but he's going to have to develop. And fortunately for me, not only did I make the team, but I was a starter right away.
So wait a minute. They were saying you were going to be a project if you made the team?
Yeah. I was going to be a project, yes.
Oh, okay.
You got to remember, this was a time of segregation, and if you didn't go to the major white schools, you were considered inferior as far as playing against less than good competition. But as we have seen over the years, guys like Sam Jones, Al Adams, Quinn, Oakley, Earl Monroe, most guys that I would say that went to black colleges during that particular time, or Division II colleges, were well prepared,
yes,
well skilled. And so being a fourth round draft choice, I was just excited to get the opportunity to go.
But could you recreate the day? Like, did you fly into somewhere, or was it by telephone? How did it all go down on draft day?
Everything was by telephone. We got a call. Coach Fears got a call in his office that the Milwaukee Bucks called him, let them know that they had picked me.
Wow.
In the fourth round. The scout that recruited me flew into Norfolk about 3 days later for me to sign the contract. The contract was for $16,500.
Wow.
And they gave me a grand bonus of $2,500. And
so you had gotten word that you were likely to be drafted. So that wasn't a surprise. But you just didn't know. Did you know which teams were looking at you?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. You didn't know that.
Because the teams that I thought was going to draft me, which was Boston, they didn't. And ironically, when I got the $2,500, there was a bank, Berkeley Citizens and Savings Loan, which was on the corner of Church and Virginia Beach Boulevard. I put the $2,500 in there, and Coach Fears didn't let me take any more than $100 out at a time. And his signature had to be on the withdrawal slip before they would honor.
Amen. Amen.
And it was interesting. About 4 years later, some of the officers at Berkeley Citizens and Savings came to a game in Washington, the Bucks versus the Bullets in Washington. And the president of the bank had kept a copy of that deposit book.
Wow.
And I'm saying that, and it just so happened I still had about $800 in that account that I had forgotten about. And as soon as I could get back to Norfolk, I went and got that $800.
The coach was looking out for you. I mean, that's some good looking out right there.
Oh, yeah.
So what, we know that recently you've had a big event. Matter of fact, it took place right here on the campus of Norfolk State University. Tell me what's going on with Bobby Dandridge in the community today.
Well, I was proud, but yet overwhelmed, because in all my days of playing, Dr. Brooks had me on the board of visitors, which was an honor. Mm-hmm. But with Dr. J being the president, this was the first time that a president of the university had extended themselves out to me. in a congratulatory way. So that was
you mean
very
Dr. Adams Gaston?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
And that was heartwarming because that was the first time that it happened in 30 or something years. And so I'm a big fan of her.
I am too, quiet as it's kept, okay?
I'm a big fan of hers, and for her to open up her home for about 40 guests, and all of them were, maybe 80% of them were fellow Norfolk State alumni, some people from the business community. So, I've always been a supporter way of Norfolk State, and I'm hoping that she will open the door so that I can continue to give back to Norfolk State and the students at the university.
That is beautiful. I'm glad to hear that, and was so glad about the slate of games that you put on, and for you to do that for the community. That was no small feat. And I don't think people take it lightly, and I think people probably really, really appreciated that because they love to see that story. They love to see, oh, homeboy, he goes, he makes it big, and then he comes back home and he gives back. People love that story.
Yes, and it was, special to me to be associated with Dr. King, to be on the same billboard or billing as Dr. King, and that it took me a couple of days to absorb what was going on.
Okay.
With that, and it was monumental to me, and it let me know. Dandridge, you must be a quality person because anytime you could be associated in the same sentence with Dr. King and all that he has done. And my hope is that the event stays at Norfolk State.
Wonderful.
That at some point there will be a need to use both gymnasiums on the campus. And what it does is to let this community know that Norfolk State is still a community-based university, and we need the support of the community. And what I had to remind or let the president know that at one time there were no dorms at Norfolk State, and we stayed with families that lived around the university, and that made the community around Norfolk State feel as if it was a part of the university, because oftentimes families may have 3 or 4 students staying at the university. Staying at their homes that attended the university. So when graduation came, the people that you stayed with were at the ceremonies as well as your parents, because they just felt a connection that they had aided a young person in completing college.
Right. It was pride. Yeah.
It was a pride in the community, and I think it's still that pride there. And that we can do, and I say Norfolk State University can even do a better job in maintaining that support that Norfolk has for Norfolk State.
So I'm going to cross sports boundaries right now. And just recently, last week it was the big Super Bowl and everything, and the big brouhaha is going on about the lack of black coaches in the NFL, and you hear about the lack of black players in Major League Baseball. And just what are your thoughts on that whole thing about black people and playing sports today and being in positions of management? What do you think about that?
I think sports is just the microscope of our society in terms of black talent being used in all areas of business and life here in this country. Mm-hmm. And I think some people, in football, they're talking about the black coaches. You have a lot of black assistants, but then there's that ceiling.
Right.
That we can be assistants, we can be players, but then to actually run the show, we aren't capable of doing that. And then I think in some other sports, if you go to the business offices, if you go to the business side of professional sports, there are very few blacks in the offices, the administrative offices of most of these teams, and I think that's an area that should always also be concentrated on, and not just the playing side. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, I think that we as African Americans are trying to get into that network or that pipeline, but a lot of times if you have some non-African Americans hiring for these administrative positions, they're going to choose people that they know or people that they are most comfortable with, people whose skin color or language or universities are similar to theirs. And I think that's something that you can't just break into automatically. And I think that a lot of sports teams need to look at that particular area, because those administrative jobs are really lifetime jobs, or jobs that you can elevate and climb to the top in. So I think a lot of what goes on in professional sports, college sports, it's no different than the plight that we face as minorities in everyday life.
Mm-hmm. That does make sense. What do you think, and what do you say to the young basketball players playing today? What do you think of the game today?
I love the game today. I mean, I love the three-pointer.
Yes.
I love the excitement of it.
Do you go to the games?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Because at the tournament or the challenge that was at Norfolk State a couple of weeks ago was the first time I've sat and watched 6 high school basketball games since 20 years ago.
Wow.
But I thoroughly enjoyed the day because the level of play is twice what it was when I was a player.
Uh-huh.
And I think there are just tremendous opportunities for guys that, male and females that play sports, because even if you don't go to the pro level, there are so many other jobs.
Yes.
Broadcasting, statisticians.
Mm-hmm.
Now everything is based on analytics from the number of shots a player takes to how they market tickets. Mm-hmm. And I think that by being in sports, you learn a lot of intangibles. You learn how to think on your feet, make quick decisions. You learn how to communicate with people from all around the world. You learn to be a team person, which is intricate in any industry, skills that you can use in any industries. And by being in sports, you learn to sort of manipulate your way and find your way to being the best, especially on a team where everybody has similar skills. That guy that surfaces as the top player, he has used some intangible skills to get to that position.
Okay.
I know when I was at Norfolk State, everybody came there as a good player, as an All-American, All-State guy. But at some point, there was a separation, and oftentimes that separation occurred when one guy was willing to probably go the extra mile in practice, practice that extra day, being able to put some of the social activities to the side to put your work in your sport.
Discipline.
So, the disciplines, the ability to listen to a coach, to listen to different coaches, because every CEO or vice president that you may meet on your way in corporate America expresses him or herself in a different manner, in a different tone, and you must be able to adjust, not take everything personally, and to keep your eye on the prize. And I think, and the prize, be it in corporate America or in athletics, is to win. And it's a game. It's a life. Life is nothing but a game. And you just got to learn when to hold them, when to fold them, when to say something, when to keep your mouth closed. Got to know when to go in and do the extra work when everybody else has gone home. And so, this game of life is just a fascinating game. And everybody has the ability to play it and to come out on top. And you don't necessarily have to be the VIP or the president to be successful in whatever endeavors you pursue.
I am so happy to hear the positivity about the game coming from you, because I get so tired of people always trying to pit this one against this one, who was the best. I'm like, wait a minute. Even I know, who never played a day of sports, even I know, the rules change, the equipment might change, the sports change. Why can't both of them be great? This one was great in his time. This one is great in his time. Why does it have to be either or? Why can't everybody be great?
The media. Yeah. Everybody wanting to have some input or thinking that he is an expert, but it could not have been said in a better, Cheryl, than the way you just said it. Everybody is great in his or her era. And, I saw a thing the other night where they were talking about, Reggie Miller was talking about Shaq was the greatest center of all time.
Oh, he didn't know his history, right?
He knew his history, but he wanted to give homage to the people that he knows, or the individuals that he has seen, which is rightfully so.
Okay.
I'm going to give a different opinion of Oscar Robertson than I will of Reggie Miller, because I saw Oscar every day for about 4 years, so naturally I'm going to go his way, and everybody tends to give the people which they've had the personal relationships with the credit, or being the greatest in their particular era.
Somebody said that, Dwayne Wade or somebody said that not too long ago. He said, everybody's going to say whoever. He said something to the effect of, soon Michael Jordan won't be in the conversation of the greatest because there will be a generation that didn't see him play. That's what he was saying, basically.
And that is true. In fact, I was at a basketball camp about maybe 4 years ago, and everybody in there had the Nike shorts on and had the Michael Jordan emblem on their shorts and all this Nike equipment. And I asked the kids, did they know who that guy was on representing Nike on their shorts? And nobody knew.
They didn't know. Wow.
They didn't.
Wow.
Even knowing their parents, they got on about $200 worth of basketball gear, and they didn't even know anything, really about Michael Jordan.
That's unbelievable to some, right?
That is just unbelievable. So, if we went back to Earl Monroe,
they'd be lost.
Georgia, they would have.
They would be lost, and the parents would be lost, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Bobby Dandrige, you have been the best guest. I have enjoyed chopping it up with you today. Now, I know you're not going to be a stranger out here in this community of Norfolk State, and I'm so glad that Norfolk State has given you your roses while you can smell them. That makes me very, very happy.
Well, thank you very much, Cheryl, and it's been a pleasure talking. It's always good to talk to somebody that's knowledgeable of not only sports but other topics other than the basketball thing, because we talked about Norfolk State and the community. And
because
I just wish
I see you making moves in the community, and that's exciting.
It is. It is. And, the community is my lifeline because I've had opportunities to live in the suburbs and all that, but I tend to want to be close to the city because I can see, young people. I can see young people moving around the city.
Uh-huh.
And that just brings sort of joy to me that, some of these kids just want somebody to be able to put a hand on them and give them some directions. And I really get sad, and I can say this, in the city of Norfolk, they've eliminated all the recreation programs. The things
I hear the same thing in Richmond just about. Mm-hmm.
The things that molded me and most athletes from a good generation was that our mentors were our coaches or ministers.
Yes.
And I think coaches are as revered in our community as any other professional person.
May I tell you something?
Yes.
So, a while back we were going through this thing with HBCUs about, I call them celebrity coaches, hiring celebrity coaches. Mm-hmm. And I understood everybody's joy behind it, kept against him or whatever. But I just thinking that I know so many coaches that they were loading kids up in their car, taking them to and from practice. They were stopping, buying them food. They had them over at their house feeding them. And I did not want those coaches who didn't get paid $1 million and who put in the work. I did not want them to be just stepped over and just people don't recognize them for what they've done. So I think there needs to be some kind of happy marriage between what I call the celebrity coaches, because those names do bring some good stuff to our HBCUs. We're seeing that. But we shall not forget those that have been there in the trenches all these years.
Oh, yeah. So I think, and nowadays, it's tough for a kid to find a good recreation after he or she gets, acts out of school, and that sort of saps your energy, and so you go home for the rest of the night and get your homework done. But when kids don't have anything to do and cities are so busy trying to make money off of daycare and recreation centers and stuff like that, it tends to hurt these young people who really want to do something in life.
You are correct. Well, don't be a stranger and know that you have these airwaves anytime, because we can just sit and talk.
Them.
Okay. All right. That is the voice of our very own Hall of Fame. If you go anywhere today, then more of Spartan Life Radio is coming your way. Welcome back to Spartan Life Radio. Again, we want to thank Bobby Dandrige for that great interview that we had with him. And now another great conversation is on the way. My guest right now, Dr. Audrey Douglas-Cooke. She is in the School of Nursing and Applied Health right here on the campus of Norfolk State University, an assistant professor. Welcome to Spartan Life Radio.
Thank you very much.
We have to talk to you about a whole lot of things, and so I don't know how we're going to get this in, but we are going to try. So you are, like I said, you're in the School of Nursing and Applied Health, but you have such vast experience in the world of hospitals and healthcare and medicine and all of that. Where did that come from? Where did that inspiration come from for you to go and learn all that you've learned?
I think the inspiration came from being a Black girl growing up in South America, and my mother, who always instilled in me that there wasn't anything that I couldn't do. And I always had a drive, and being number 4 of 6 siblings, and I'm looking at my older brothers and sister and seeing them excel and succeed, I thought, well, if they could do it, I certainly can. But as you know, it takes a village, and I've had lots of support and lots of people who helped me along the way, and I will always be forever grateful.
And when I speak about your vast experience, I don't even know how to cliff note it, if there's such a word. So can you do the background cliff notes for the listening audience?
Sure. So I graduated from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. with a bachelor's in nursing, and moved to Hampton Roads, married my high school sweetheart, Robert Cook Jr., who was in the Navy at the time, and started working at Virginia Beach General Hospital as a staff nurse. Always had an affinity for leadership, and so I went to Central Michigan University and got my master's degree, and migrated within Center Healthcare, went from a manager to a director. And then my last post was working as the vice president for Center Heart Hospital. Extremely rewarding job, had an opportunity to run the heart hospital and to just work earnestly to meet or exceed the needs of so many of our cardiac patients in the Hampton Roads community. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But like so many of us, I always wanted to teach. And so in 2017, I started down the pathway of working towards my PhD in public policy and research, and was very successful in accomplishing that in 2020. And so here I am in 2021 teaching.
You are where you want to be. And I know that you've gotten offers from all over to teach. Why did you choose Norfolk State University?
I chose Norfolk State University because I truly believe that all of us, and I certainly don't mean to be religious on the radio, but I think all of us have a calling. And I felt that my calling was to be in a setting, an HBCU setting, wherein I can have an opportunity to collaborate with all these awesome minds of Black, brown, yellow, white people, all commingled together to truly try to make a difference. You know, we are celebrating Black History Month in February, and I am reminded of all of the great minds of African Americans who went before us that have done an outstanding job, and it's the reason why many of us are where we are. And so I felt humbled and honored to have an opportunity to share the vast knowledge that I have attained over a 25-plus year career with these young minds. And hopefully, you know, if you inspire one person to be greater, bigger, and better than you are, then you know it's all been worth it.
How do you plan to do that inspiring? I mean, I know they're the class, you know, curriculum, and I know you'll do all of that, but how are you going to inspire these students?
You know, it's about, I'm reminded of an old thing that Martin Luther King said. He said, each one reach one. And when we think that one person cannot make a difference, he said, think again. And so I just feel within my soul that if you take the time to reach out to the students, if you see a student that looks like he or she is struggling, or if you see they're constantly raising their hand, which tells you they're not getting the information, take the time to say, hey, how about coming back to see me after class? Or how about meeting with me tomorrow morning in my office? Let's go over it again. I don't mind. We as educators, we have to be the effects of change for the youth. We have to show them that we care, that we have the time, and that we're willing to outstretch ourselves so that they get it and they understand it. And I think students react to that. They want to know that their educators, the professors on this campus care. And I will tell you, in the short time I've been here, just in looking at the way the professors are interacting with the students and what they're doing, it is outstanding. And that's why I am so proud and so honored to be a part of the team.
Our newest Spartan right here. I like that, Dr. Cooke. I like that. So you are teaching what in particular? What specifically are you teaching?
So all of the classes that I am teaching, being new, I am co-teaching this with another professor, Dr. Serjani, and we are teaching the U.S. healthcare system, which is just wonderful. I thoroughly am enjoying it. The second course is Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, which is so appropriate in today's environment. And then the third course is on medical terminology for health professions. So a wide range, but all certainly within the realm of health.
What do you want people to know in general? This is not just the students. What do you want people, especially Black Americans, to know about this healthcare system? What do you want them to know about taking care of themselves and the opportunities that are out there and the myths that are out there? What are the gems that you know that the average Joe just does not know?
Well, I begin sort of on the downslope, and that is oftentimes we feel that because someone has a degree or a title behind their name, that means that they know or that physician knows. And I want everyone to have a questioning attitude, meaning that don't hesitate to go into a physician's office with a list and ask all of your questions. Don't hesitate that if something doesn't sound right to you or that inner voice within you says, I'm not so sure, it's okay to get a second opinion. It is okay to have a questioning attitude and do what you think is best. The pandemic has brought out several things. Number one, it has made it glaringly apparent the gross disparities in health care that we're seeing among Black and brown people. It has brought out the stress that exists among so many Americans, especially the Latina, the Hispanic Americans, and the African Americans, and the Asian people. It has brought out the gross diversities that we're seeing in administering that health care. And so I want the young people to know that they too can become physicians. They too can become experts in the field of health and medicines. But most importantly, I want the large community to know that you are not defined by the care or lack thereof that you receive. Let your voice speak for you and let your actions be your moving guide. And know when to say, you know what, I'm going to move on to something else. You know, it's funny, when we go to buy a car, we look at that car and we say, gee, you know, I like that car, and you get in it, you test drive it. Sometimes it drives well, sometimes it doesn't. But if you don't feel good in that car, you tell the salesman, well, thank you very much. And, you know, you go down the street around the corner and you go to another dealer until you feel comfy in that car. But we don't do that in medicine. We go to see a doctor, we go to a clinic, or we go to a healthcare facility, and however we're treated, we say, well, I guess this is the best that they can do for me. We accept it. And my voice is to say to everyone, no, especially in healthcare, don't accept anything less than that you deserve to be treated equally and you deserve to receive the best care possible that is affordable and available for all Americans in America, not just certain Americans.
You know, I'm not a very confrontational person, or I'm not very, some people just go for bad. That's not me. I'm not. But I remember when my dad was in the hospital in the 80s, and I remember my mom calling me at work, and she said, I haven't seen the doctor in days. So I got in the car and I came home, and I waited all day in his office, and he finally came in about 4:00 in the afternoon. And I asked about my dad and everything. And I was like, I need more visits out of you. I need more information out of you. I need to know. And the doctor started crying. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the doctor starts crying, and he starts telling me about all the stress in his life. So I said, Doctor, very respectfully, don't set foot in my dad's room anymore. We're good. We're okay. So he later calls my mom and says, your daughter fired me or whatever. But I'm telling you, Dr. Audrey, there's certain things that I don't play with. So doctors are one of them. So when grandson was going to have surgery on his elbow, I looked the doctor in the face and I said, you need to pretend like he's one of yours. In other words, you need to pretend like he's one of yours. When I go to a doctor, I'm looking at the degrees on the wall. Yes, I am. But I always ask the question, why are you a doctor? And I am telling you, if they are a doctor for the right reason, you get it. You should see their eyes, their position of their body and all, and they start explaining to you why they became a doctor. If I don't see that, they're just not my doctor. I just go somewhere else.
Yes. Well, I certainly commend you for that, but in life we have, multitude of people with different personalities, but for some reason, regardless of your personality type, we get in front of a medical expert or supposedly an expert, and we freeze. We go with a list of questions, we ask one question, and then the doctor appears to be, well, I need to move on to the next one. And instead of saying, but doctor, I've got more questions, we say, okay. And so to your point, we have to, if we want change, we have to be the change agents. We have to begin showing the medical community that we do have voices, and we want to be heard, and we've got questions, and we want to be treated fairly. But it begins with us. It begins with us advocating for and insisting on that change and that level of quality care that we deserve.
But, oh my goodness. But we understand that the medical world is changing for the doctors as well. So even the good doctors out there are being put under a system where it's hard for them to do what they love to do. For instance, so I had a doctor in Hampton Roads, had her over 30 years. She closed her office in July. I was heartbroken. So I go to a nurse that I trust, and I said, look, I need a new gynecologist. She gives me a fantastic gynecologist. Last week I got a message. She stopped being a gynecologist. And all of this I know is because of the business end of this healthcare system that's making it hard for them as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think people realize what an OB doctor pays for insurance.
Right.
So society as a whole has become very litigious. Mm-hmm. And physicians are fearful of being sued, and so the insurance premiums have gone up tremendously. That compounded with, you've got 4 years of medical school, 4 years of undergrad in a baccalaureate program, and then you've got your internship, your residency, and heaven forbid, if you want to become a heart doctor and do heart surgeries, then you've got a whole bunch of years in front of you still to go. But when you add up the total cost, many of these physicians, they're well into their 40s, and they're still paying back school loans. Mm-hmm. And so it just becomes insurmountable for so many of them that they're quitting. But on the flip side, you have some healthcare institutions or insurance carriers that are dictating what a physician can order and what that physician cannot order. And the question is, how did we get to a point, the number one country in the world, wherein, for the most part, many physicians don't get to drive the care delivery model for their patients? They can't order X because the insurance company is saying, I'm not going to pay for it. Put them through Y first and try that out for a few months. And if it doesn't work, then call back the insurance company and we'll make a decision whether we're going to approve paying for that CT scan or that MRI. That is the down part of the insurance world that exists for healthcare. But again, I go back to what will our role be? And when we heard John Lewis, God rest his soul, say, you have got to get out and vote. You have got to share your voice. We have to be cognizant. We have to be aware of what are the issues that are impacting Americans today? What are the issues that are impacting black and brown people today? And how do we affect change? Why are insurance companies in control and driving my health care, but yet I'm being asked to pay a premium every month?
And how dare
that we need.
How dare they decide what I get when they have not been to medical school not one day, not one day.
Right.
But
right.
they get
like
to make the medical
it's
decision.
The business end of it, right?
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Healthcare is about making money for so many, and insurance carriers, make no mistake, they want to look at the bottom line and they want to make sure they've got a very nice, sizable profit off of your premiums and off of your life and your health.
You know, I recently learned about the hospice industry, and I was mortified to learn that, you know, somebody going on hospice, they tell you 6 months. Then if they haven't passed away in 6 months, then the hospice company oftentimes has to eat the cost. And then after a certain amount of time, if the person still hadn't passed, then the hospice company has to pay the government for this person being on hospice. I'm like, all of this is crazy to me.
Yeah, it is crazy. And there are different, that's just one type of program. There are different hospice programs. And, you know, I applaud the medical community because they want for the last days of any individual or the last month or the last year for that person to be something of quality, hence the reason why they admit them to hospice care and hospice services. But again, going back to insurance companies, it all depends on the type of insurance you have and how much they recover, how many visits. And it's sad. It breaks my heart. But I give kudos to those nurses and healthcare providers who are in the hospice business.
Yes.
Oh, they do a phenomenal job.
This pandemic has taught me, and being at this age in my life has taught me that we've got some heroes out there. And I've always thought that teachers were called. I've always believed that. They talk about pastors being called. I've always believed teachers are called. And I've added to that list nurses. Nurses and teachers are definitely called.
Yes.
I am speaking with Dr. I'm sorry, were you saying something?
No, I was just saying you're absolutely correct.
I'm speaking with Dr. Audrey Douglas-Cooke. She is right here at Norfolk State University at the School of Nursing and Allied Health. We're so happy to have her. She has a vast knowledge of what's going on with healthcare, and that's why I wanted to get you on this show. I just want you to talk to the people. So if you have a young person today and they come to you and they say, Doctor, I think I'm going to go into the world of medicine, what advice would you have for them?
I would tell them, you know, is that your heart talking or your head talking? And the reason why I would say that is that to be in medicine today, you have to have a heart for it. You have to have the compassion, the care, that it's not about how much money you're going to make over the long run. Mm-hmm. It's not about the prestige of the job. It's about what impact are you going to have on the first patient and or the last patient that you see each and every day. I would tell them that, you know, there is nothing impossible to they who will try. You know, life has got a lot of twists and turns. We know that. But I will tell that young person, keep your face always towards the sunshine, and shadows will always fall behind. Go for it.
I love that. Shadows will always fall behind. Oh my gosh. This woman is such a gem. I can't even tell you all what she's done for me, okay? Because I might just start crying, but she is a gem. I am so glad that you are on the campus of Norfolk State University. I'm so glad that you're here with these students. I hope that they will come to you and drink of all your knowledge and everything. And I hope that you will be here for a long time because you are needed and you're bright. It's not just for the kids. It's just for the community that I'm just glad you're here because
Thank you.
You're just Miss Audrey. And you've, as long as I've known you, you've just always given. And I just appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cheryl. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much for asking me to be a part of your radio show. I hope that some of the words that I've shared will be inspiring to those who listen, but most importantly, know that I'm always here for you and for the awesome students on the NSU campus. So thank you.
We got to get you some Spartan gear. And if there's some people listening and they may want to get in contact with you, do you have a email address or something that you can give out?
No, they're working on my email address. It isn't perfected yet. However, they can always find me on the third floor. That is where the Allied Health Department is. And my dean, Dr. St. Rose, has just been so wonderful here. But yeah, they can find me in the nursing building on the third floor. I am always here. And if I'm not here in the classroom teaching, they can always leave a message. I will get back with them within 24 hours.
Right, because it might be some students listening and it might be some grown people that just might want to pick your brain about something. You never know because, like I said, you've been in this field, this healthcare, this medical world, this hospital world, and you know. So I am pleased that you joined us today. And don't be surprised if you hear me calling you back another day. Miss Audrey would be like, there's Cheryl worrying me once more.
You can worry me anytime. Absolutely. I would be honored.
Thank you so much. That is the voice of Dr. Audrey Douglas-Cooke. She is right here on the campus of Norfolk State University, and pleased to have her on the show. So this ends another segment of Spartan Life Radio. Again, we want to thank Bobby Dandrige, who came through, gave us some good conversation. Of course, we followed that up just now with Dr. Audrey Douglas-Cooke, and that was good. So if you all have any ideas, if anyone you want to have me get on the show, you can always email me, cwwilkerson@nsu.edu, cwwilkerson@nsu.edu, and we can talk about it. I gotta thank Marvin Scandalous because he always holds it down for me, and he comes in, produces the show, and makes sure that it gets on the air. And for that, I have to thank him. Also, I have to thank Carolyn Hairston because she helps me with booking guests, and she finds so many wonderful guests. So I'm just here, but there are a lot of people behind the scenes that I'm very appreciative of. So you all have a great Sunday afternoon. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. That leaves your field wide open. You all take care. We'll talk again next Sunday. Bye-bye.